composition, and then you have your global with the Gallios, the Shens that we're seeing crop up, the Pantheon, where you can play tough to side lane, Talia as well. We'll see what these two teams are going to pick for our very first one. I think those tank picks and the Trundle pick are going to be really big in game one here.
Look to see what the early bans are. I feel like as well in Fearless, you know, bans can evolve over the series. We often see some staples that kind of locked in. Yone and Vi, kind of the big ones, especially against HLE. Likely see Yone ban probably, especially by Gen.G for the whole series. But the Vi ban on red side, a very common one coming through. Taking away the Nico as well. Often a really strong engage pick that can also work really well as that lane prio pick. Can pair up really well with things like the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, I think these are two solid bans so far. I think it's a little bit tougher here on red side to gauge in game one, so sticking with safer jungle bans here. The Vi, of course, is a perma ban. I don't think we'll be seeing that across 5 games. The Pantheon, though, is on that global side I was talking about earlier. The Ahri will be taken away from Zeka, though, so Zeka being heavily targeted with 2 of those picks here already in game one.
Feels like very focused towards like dive bans from Gen.G. A lot of these aggressive picks taken away. Not really too many bans apart from that Yone. Like, it feels like more targeted bans rather than like the meta bans we typically see. You know, Talia still open and available.
They want Talia big time, and they're going to get it. Chovy did an AMA recently, talked about how Talia was actually his most comfortable and favored champion at the moment. And this just makes sense. The Ahri's taken away. You got to pick this first.
It's super obvious. And this does give over the Rumble here to Zeus, which has been a lane-dominant pick, great for team fights later on as well. And even with repeated nerfs, Rumble has just kind of still been king of the top lane. And to pick the Azir into the Talia is quite bold, but we consider the Talia to be somewhat of a counter because she can stop the Azir dashes. It's a strong matchup for her, but it's not unplayable. And there are other impacts that the Azir can make in late game, especially in terms of side laning.
I just feel like we've seen this matchup go Talia favored so often in the LCK. And you're into Chovy as well, who said he's so comfortable. It's clearly something that HLE expected and were willing to opt into, but it's a rough gambit to go into game one. And this kind of feels like a situation where it's like, okay, Gen.G at blue side, we know it's a tough matchup. Let's see if we can try and, you know, take that rough matchup and see what we can do with it.
I think Peanut going for the Skarner here is pretty greedy as well. I feel like that's the idea, because why would you otherwise lock the Azir right here when you could have taken the Xin Zhao away from Gen.G? They're actually not looking to lock it right away, but that's been one of the more common responses to Xin Zhao. We've seen a lot of our top junglers pull that out, Peanut included. They're looking for the Poppy that's open here instead as well. Somewhat of a flex, but likely to go into Peanut's hands. And again, somewhat greedy, this draft here from Hanwha Life, but has a lot of power around objectives now. You could consider the zoning from the Rumble ultimate, obviously the Poppy's ultimate as well. The Keeper's Verdict for objective control.
You know what I really like about this draft so far for Hanwha is that they took Azir away from Chovy for the rest of the series. Like, you know, talk about what you want for the best of 5 and for this game, but Chovy, you cannot give him Azir in a best of 5, so I'm just happy that they did that. Everything else disregarded.
One thing with Gen.G's composition, it isn't that long range, and especially with like the Azir and the Poppy, because you think about the Azir is going to be able to close distance very easily. Maybe the thought process is now is that we're not going to close distance. If you pick a longer range AD carry in the situation, maybe the onus comes on a Gen.G to close that gap, and HLE have some great defensive tools here, so we'll see how things pan out. We see the center band away from Gen.G, which I think is a great call, as obviously that long-ranged AD carry would be so hard to deal with paired with the rest of HLE's composition. I expect we'll probably just see like the Alistar band here. It could still be a Poppy flex to support in this situation, but I would not want to play against Poppy and Alistar on the side of HLE.
I think Varus is also another potential problem that they're going to be facing here. Varus can be so incredibly strong in lane. Viper is very good at it, and as you mentioned already, the comp is pretty low range here for Gen.G, so you have a lot of safety and freedom to just sit back and poke. Can go for on hit as well, but I think in this draft, the lethality variant would be very strong here. I think something like a Xayah is not really necessary in this draft. I think you want to go long range. I think you want to go poke. You've got a ton of consistent damage, and they are going to agree and lock that Varus in. Also, now puts Gen.G in a somewhat uncomfortable position in terms of bottom lane, where they have to lock something like MF, like Jhin, that can go toe-to-toe in lane. This does solve some of the range problem, though, for Gen.G if they opt for this. I think it suits their comp really well because they already have such a strong melee front line to buy space for the Jhin.
And then up going the Nautilus, I feel like into Poppy, you know, it's not necessarily the Poppy support, but we've seen Nautilus fare better than other engaged supports. If the Steadfast Presence comes down and you Q, even though you do get that little interrupt on you, you still manage to connect the CC. We'll see, though, if they end up committing to that Poppy in the jungle or in the support role for the side of HLE. They do have options. And it looks like they're going to go for the Rel for Delight and lock Peanut into that support role. So, you know, I think some interesting decisions here. I think both teams kind of rounded out their compositions well. I think HLE do still have that long range, play the distance option here, but they're still dealing with, like, you know, Chovy on that Slayer. Gen.G gave themselves that Jhin to help solve some of the range issues. I think both teams fared okay in this, but I think it's still hard to deal with that Slayer in the mid lane. That Slayer Xin Zhao is so much strength.
I think outside of that, though, I find the Gen.G composition to be a little bit tougher to play. There's a lot of volatility in this top lane matchup as well between Keen and Zeus. Zeus being the more recently stronger performing top laner in a matchup that can go either way, but the Rumble often does win if played perfectly, spaced really well, gives you a lot of power there. And there's so much scaling plus ease of objective fights. With the Poppy ultimate, we already talked about the Rel engage, you have Varus's poke. It's really tricky for Gen.G, especially if they fall far behind, to actually win those late game team fights, set up on objectives like Baron, like a soul fight.
Well, that's the draft. That definitely does look like a game one fearless draft. You know, everything is available, but a lot of stuff gets taken away with just that first game. It feels like a lot of high tier picks picked up already, which does make a lot of sense. Both compositions make sense, and this is kind of what we expect between these two teams. They're both extremely good at drafting. You think about, you know, Coach Kim and what he's been able to do with all those guys on Gen.G has been amazing, with Helper as well. And then you think about Mowgli, who has been, you know, a champion before, and he knows how to draft in these big series alongside of Dandy. So really want to shout out the coaches alongside of the players for creating some good drafts here to start.
It's going to be a banger game one. This is the expensive draft where everything is open, so you want to make it count.
All right, here we go, guys. Game number one, Gen.G up against Hanwha Esports here at the road to MSI. All right, there we go, and already trying to get some action here, put down the first ward right at the Raptors, as we often do see. They will be able to.
Well, it's level one, not a massive favor for either team. The Braum was taken away, of course. See a bigger group here for Gen.G down around the bottom side. Hanwha Life are going to respect it. Looks like we won't have any more action here as minions collide in the mid lane. Eyes on Zeka versus Chovy, because this is going to be the first kind of litmus test, so to speak, on what Zeka's form looks like today, because he is definitely the underdog in this best of 5 in terms of the mid lane. Chovy indisputably #1 right now in the role.
Yeah,
and it's a tough matchup as well.
Chovy definitely the overdog in this situation. I think we can all agree.
He is the overdog, and nobody really compares to Chovy right now. He's playing currently his favorite champion in a matchup that favors the Taliyah, so you know, generally we're used to, you know, I was talking about taking the Azir away from Chovy. You think about what he was able to do against T1, I think it was last year, right, in that spring finals,
yes.
The 5th game, where he just absolutely carried it by himself. And it's been just more of that this year, just him kind of solo carrying, even alongside of his fantastic team.
Was it upper bracket as well against Hanwha Life in LCK Summer last year, where he also carried on the Azir pick?
Yeah, you just can't give it to him.
He also crushed Hanwha Life in their most recent regular season match in round 2 with the Azir pick. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I do agree that there's a lot of value in denying it. But if you can win with it in this matchup as well, the value goes even higher, of course.
I do want to note that we saw Keen pick up the exhaust on the Gwen in the Rumble, which you've seen a decent amount of times. We did talk a little bit about how Zeus in this matchup can definitely put some pressure on a Keen. And also we have the Poppy for Peanut, which I feel like whenever I see Poppy in the jungle, I'm always thinking about, can we find pressure to gank side lanes? And if Zeus finds an opportunity to get prior, if they push the wave in, it's so easy to dive anyone in the side lanes, just slam them into the wall under the turret. So Keen does need to be a little bit concerned about that.
Ruler gonna burn his cleanse already. Tons of damage going into him, and even the flash forward! Oh, gets it done, and Viper and Delight just outplay Ruler.
The second he goes for the flourish, Delight is on him immediately. No chance to get out. The cleanse is instant, but the damage is already done. Really nice follow-up there from Viper. Gets the final auto.
Peanut as well gonna be bullied here out of the river. So at least Canyon is able to win this fight for the first Scuttle Crab. But yeah, that's going to be a big moment in the bottom lane to get Hanwha Esports' bottom lane ahead. You were talking about how Viper could be the guy in this series to carry them. Everybody's talking about Zeus, but I don't know. Viper now with first blood could be his moment.
I feel like this was a big flub from Ruler, but just so well played by both Delight and Viper here. So catches him out. The interrupt a little late from Duro, but then Ruler tries to flash late, but the auto to follow. Just so well played, and again, you know, the fact that Ruler ends up burning both summoner spells, but it's that kind of situation where he's trying to hold on to them, burns them late, dies anyway. Worst case scenario, dying this early into a best of 5, not a good omen.
Yeah, you don't feel great about that. Now trying to push in, but Peanut is there. Peanut, again, I talk about those pressure points he's always looking for. Now Ruler flashless, he is in big trouble.
Yeah, Ruler's just dead. There's no way to get away out of this one, and they're just trying to keep Duro around as well. They're going to give this kill over to Viper, and now Duro is going to flash away. So they get another kill on a Ruler, and the flash from Duro. This bottom lane is a disaster for Gen.G.
And this is what happens. You make a mistake, and against a team like HLE, you're not afforded time to sort of get over it because you're immediately punished again for it. Peter takes the opportunity to make it really sting, rub salt into the wound, and suddenly 2-0 Viper is a fantastic win con for HLE.
Yeah, that's the thing. Critically, the second kill also goes to Viper. They're able to serve it up to him on a silver platter, and so he's got this massive lead now as he begins to stack his tier. And Ruler is not going to have a fun time through this mid game. I mean, he's basically in turret range here. Look at the river. There's no vision. There's nothing. Canyon is so far away. It's an elementary mistake and a surprise to see for Ruler here in a big series like this one.
I mean, update that it is a peripheral issue for Zeka, so those issues generally solve themselves relatively quickly.
Scaling means for this draft.
Yeah, and now when you get this big of a lead in the bottom side of the map, well, what I was going to say is probably you can get that first dragon and then rotate your bottom lane up, but actually it's Gen.G on a back timing of Hanwha Esports that are going to pick up this first dragon, so at least they get that.
I will say the only thing is there is a pretty sizable lead in the jungle in favor of Canyon. We did see that moment earlier where Canyon, well, there was when we last looked at it, it was like a few camps ahead. Not anymore, apparently.
Well, it's not Old Rel, so not going to be able to take the dragon away, but they are keeping Canyon around, and they do get his flash, but not the biggest deal in the world, but at least Hanwha gets something out of that.
Yeah, I think Hanwha will be happy that they got at least that, because I think getting anything else there wasn't really going to be possible. Just see a rotation over from Zeus, by the way, here, as they look to collapse potentially.
Yeah, they're kind of up against the wall. That Hex Flash, very confusing. Chovy in a lot of trouble. He will flash out, though, and now it's just Duro who looks to be going down. The question is who gets the kill. It will be Zeka. So now your bottom lane is in shambles. Duro dies once here to the side of the Azir, who was struggling just a little bit in the mid lane. Hanwha are running away with this early game.
Such a fantastic start. You know, Zeus finding the angle to move down, getting it a kill for Zeka as well. And again, it's not a huge lead so far, but things going in favor of HLE already. Definitely positive. See Ruler getting some farm in the top lane. Grub's going to be spawning in about 50 seconds. And I feel like maybe Gen.G, they're just going to focus on these objectives at this point.
I don't know if you really want to go in on that one, Zeus. Yeah, the timing of the back for Viper, we went back towards the Dragon when we had that late contest there and they got the flash of the Canyon was a little bit bizarre because I think they just weren't aware of how fast Canyon was there, so we didn't get much in the bottom lane, now rotated a little bit late to the top side, so the top side prio is now more important and it is Gen.G's, but this is a really cool play here from Zeus, gets a slow from the equalizer. Toby has to flash, and he flashes so well against Cypher's Divide. Otherwise, it's a double here for Hanwha.
To be honest, it feels like for me, HLE using their tempo a lot more to set up for these kills, get a bit of a gold lead, whereas Canyon's a lot more focused on setting up for these objectives like the Dragon earlier. But we'll see how it ends up playing out. Right now, though, pressure's still very much in favor. It's about a 1.5k gold lead for HLE right now, but it's almost 1,000 for Viper. And the thing is, once this virus starts to get rolling, just the poke becomes so obnoxious.
Yeah, it really does. It's a significant lead he has already. Grubs are up, and Peanut is closer to them. Will Hex Flash in to speed that pathing up, and they did regain control of that top side. As you mentioned, the objectives for Canny, he's not going to be able to get this one. And this is a big win here for Hanwha because they're the ones who have the Azir in their composition. The Nashor's Tooth can allow Zeka to hit turrets real quick and take them out. He's left alone with one. Can be a big problem for Gen.G to deal with.
Hanwha bottom lane, just hiding on bush in the top side. And Zeus smartly here. Well, he sees Canyon anyway, but you got to play passively when you're playing for the grubs on the top side, so Zeus doesn't get caught out or anything. He's got Swifties as well, so relatively safe on the Rumble.
Well,
I say that, and yeah, backing in the bush. He will have to flash away. A lot of needles go in, but I think this is an overcommit here from Gen.G.
Almost
They're going to
makes-
get the flash at least.
Almost makes you wonder, Zeus thought he was definitely going to get the kill there for the bait. It's so wild.
If he had Equalizer, I think
He
gets
probably
one of
does,
them,
yeah.
Maybe a little bit of a force from Gen.G trying to make something happen here on the comeback. But now you're losing on the top side. Ruler's falling further behind because Peanut is here. And yeah, Zeus will be zoned, but now we've got Viper getting even more money.
You actually saw Chovy lean down towards bot lane, and there was a ward in the mid lane, so he was spotted going bot. I think maybe the thought process was Chovy leaving lane might have been enough to maybe ward them away from top, but maybe because they spotted him going bot lane, they were like, no, we know Chovy's not anywhere near. But either way, they end up forcing the bot lane away, and I feel like HLE are just the ones with absolute control of this situation.
30 CS the deficit here for Ruler as another plate goes over to Viper. I think they're definitely winning this trade. If the Gwen had grubs, you know, maybe it's a bit of a different story there on the bottom side in terms of what she's able to get done, but she does not. We'll have to teleport top side. Keen goes there, and now Ruler's got a little bit of alone time down here towards this turret, but I don't think he's going to get much with it. And Hanwha are winning everywhere.
Yeah, we saw Chovy just on screen clear out that ward there. I think maybe if he just moved up towards top lane, that would have been maybe enough to secure Ruler and Duro, be able to defend the turret. But either way, it's going to be HLE just getting further and further ahead in this game.
Saw Zeka putting in the eye drops already. Generally see him do that to try to power up in the later parts of the series, but he's doing it early, maybe feeling the momentum already as he was moving down to the bottom side. The momentum is real. Just 3 kills here early on. Next Drake is going to be Infernal, and you would have to imagine that Hanwha play around that and pick that up. And we'll see what Soul we are looking towards here in this game. Top lane, you know, Zeus had to abandon maybe 1.5 waves on the bottom side of the map when they were going 1v2, and Chovy was on that ward, so Zeus did, you know, fall a little bit behind there.
He has
So at least Keen has got that going on for his team.
Yeah, he's got TP advantage if it comes down to a really close fight here for this Dragon, but I just don't feel like it's going to be with the control that Hanwha has. I don't think Zeus even necessarily needs to show up to this because there's just no prio whatsoever for Gen.G. Canyon going for a long wraparound here, but has seen so much.
Now we got needles into Zeus, who's just going to try to shield and run away, and he takes about 20% of his health,
Yeah,
and that's about it.
I feel like maybe that was just to secure some pressure so he could back up Canyon.
Mountain Soul.
Yeah, Zeus just going to ult the wave. I feel like Zeus is doing his role perfectly, though. He knows he's on the weak side. He knows he has to play defensive. No waves, they can't really threaten a dive. He knows exactly what he has to do. The rest of the team is just getting damage down on the bot lane tower.
Yeah, I think Keen just wanted to crash the wave there for this potential dive. Zeus reads it like a book, backs away, equalizes the wave so there's no potential dive here because they knew where Canyon was. They saw him on a ward, and he's just chilling now. And he's like, all right, send another wave over. I know your jungler isn't going to be here anymore. Now, I say that Duro is heading up, but look who's there to cover. Hanwha Life just one step ahead. Look at all the vision Gen.G have, and still Delight reads the play, comes up here, knows Duro is missing and can now defend. But Chovy,
Can Delight save his top laner? Delight's going to take a ton of damage, but he's still Rel, and he's able to just hop away. Canyon wasn't here. It was kind of like a broken up one of a dive. As meanwhile, Peanut's taking a free turret in the bottom lane.
it's a strength.
Oh, man. Hanwha Life are just owning everything in this early game in game number 1. And in the last couple of best-of-5s that we had in big series in the summer final last year and in LCK Cup, Hanwha Life Esports won those best-of-5s, and they won game 1, importantly. So with this massive lead, you could see that maybe happening again if they do eventually win this game.
Trying to set up something on Zeka there, just stop the recall, but it just feels like Gen.G not able to get anything going in this one. The lead opening up more and more, feature strength secured, as she said, and HLE just feels like with one arm, they're effortlessly blocking everything that Gen.G throws at them.
And I just don't know what the path back into this game is outside of a side lane issue from Hanwha Life. We've seen that a few times from Zeus, you know, overextending, as we might be seeing right now.
Speak of the devil. We have Duro on the gank here, and they know that he's in the bush. Zeus about to figure this out. and he just flashes over the wall. But that is a Nautilus with his own flash. Does not have depth charge, though. Gonna ult the wave, and it's just a 1v2 here. Do they have enough damage? Yes, they absolutely do. So Keen looking to extend his lead with some help from Duro. A nice play there as Gen.G are trying to claw their way back in this game.
I mean, obviously it's a mistake from Zeus, but in the end, is it really going to mean anything for Gen.G? Not particularly. Like, it's nice to have that gold on Keen, but it's not drastically going to change the state of things. And if they keep finding more and more windows like that, it'll open the game up. But yeah, we'll see if they can capitalize on the fact that Zeus has lost his flash, though. As you said, this is a mistake we've sometimes seen him make before. Now without that flash, he'll be a more vulnerable target. I think one thing to mention, though, is with the fact that they have things like the Gwen, like the Talia, the main way where I can see them really getting back in this game is if when they're approaching team fights, they can find a big flank angle. You want your Gwen to be strong to do that. They did get that kill onto the Gwen. They did get that tower taken down as well. The more gold that is funneled onto Keen, the easier that's going to be.
Yeah, I think this is a big flub. You know, in terms of the vision setup we had down there, where Gen.G had it fully covered, it was an easy path from Duro, who's been trying so hard to get on top of Zeus and make something happen to play through their one winning lane. As hold that thought, Ruler gonna cleanse.
Yeah, little Ruler spot, but he's pretty far back on the blue side Ruler spot, so he will be okay, but there is the cleanse, as you mentioned. Zeka just farming top lane, and they're looking for the Rift Heralds here. Hanwha Life, again, in total control of this, over 2,000 gold in the lead. They have those first item spikes, whereas we do have some for the side of Gen.G, but Ruler's basically not a champion right now. Are they still going to fight for this?
No.
Well, the answer is absolutely not, because, well, they just lost 2 people to the Poppy ult, and yeah, that's why we love to see Poppy in these games.
I mentioned earlier, like, you know, the ease of execution of this comp, even in an even game state where you don't have full control, you might be able to knock 2 people away with that, or force a reaction, force a flash, or reposition from ahead. Good luck getting anywhere close.
It's so frustrating playing against a composition like this when you're behind. Because the thing is, you're never going to have vision advantage. You're always going to be walking into an area where the enemy team's set up and you're walking into fog of war. Because it feels bad when you're walking into an engage when you don't have vision. It's even worse when it's a Poppy ult and she just knocks half your team away. And this is going to be how Gen.G have to play the game. They really need to find windows where they can get flanks or get set up or find like pockets of vision.
I mean, their vision this game has been really impressive considering the game state and how little control they've had. They've had so many different pockets they've found. You know, we saw the Duro roam topside. It was read well by Delight, even though he wasn't on vision. They had vision to get that gank on the Zeus moments before down the bottom lane. You can see how much vision they have top to bottom across the map. They need to find a way to utilize it. Chovy is going to TP back to mid here, and we're going to have this big fight over the first mountain.
Poppy ult is down for this fight, so they feel confident to push in.
Yeah, Gen.G going to be looking for it, but again,
TP.
Let's see how this one is going to go, as that is a big flick on Zeka, who also just throws his ult out somewhat reflexively, and now HLE, they're going to look for Duro actually on the left side here, might be able to get him. The Rumble ult does come down, and he's just trying to zone, but meanwhile, Delight goes in, and they're doing this all without Zeka, who is now looking to TP, and this fight is going to go to Peanut, who does pick up that first Mountain Drake for the side of HLE. As now Zeka's here and Gen.G are between a rock and a hard place. Zeka is going to get knocked up. They're trying to go in onto this one and get a trade in Canyon with the help of Ruler. And now Gen.G are turning this fight around. They lost the Drake, but at least they got a bunch of kills on the backside.
Clutch fights like this are the only way Gen.G can get back into the game. Canyon playing at such a tiny margin there with his health as he goes back in. The flick at max range from Chovy to help end that fight after what was a bit of a whoopsie there from Zeka with their ultimate. If he had that, I think the fight could have looked completely different as he rejoined. But like you said, kind of reflexively using it here at the beginning of this fight as they engage on him.
I mean, Chovy just did so much in this fight, gets this almost pick on a Zeka at the start that forces him away, so he has to go for the TP for help. Duro ends up getting caught out by here by Peter. It essentially says, okay, I'm dead, I'm going to sacrifice myself by time. Peanut comes in and then is able to pick up the dragon here as well. Ruler ends up ulting, and it's unfortunate for Gen.G because if he had this ult later, I think it would have had a lot of impact, but Zeus forces him to cancel. But here again, Chovy catches Zeka once more, so they're able to take him down. This disparity, Chovy doing so much on this Talia to catch out Zeka twice. Yeah, doing so much to get Gen.G into this game.
It's just the Chovy show again. This is why we were hyping it up so much, but Chovy is in the form of his life right now, and it cannot be understated. I would imagine that a lot of people were predicting Gen.G, yeah, sure, they went 18-0, but, you know, solely because of Chovy at times. It's insane.
To be on top as long as Chovy has, and to keep breaking the barrier, keep breaking the ceiling over and over and over again, just when you think he's peaked, he shows you that he hasn't, is just so incredibly impressive, carrying his team now to only a 300 gold deficit after what was such a fantastic start for Hanwha Life. They're still in the lead, they still have a lot of control, but Gen.G feels a lot more playable now.
Yeah, I mean, I said that this game would be huge for HLE to win based on, you know, Gen.G having the blue side and the things they had in the draft. But after HLE's early lead, it would be such a tilter if they lost this game. So Gen.G corner back, absolutely massive. We do see the Herald come down mid, but Gen.G there to defend, so the whole tower doesn't go down, although it is low.
Yeah. You remember the gold lead that Viper had earlier on. It was over 1,000. It was like 1,200. Now it's 100. Yeah. And that's because Ruler got 2 kills in that last fight. So Ruler, yeah, he kind of botched it early, but he got a bunch of kills. He's the 80 carry still. And now this Jin is a champion, whereas before it was not at all. You remember the Rift Herald fight where he was like, I guess I'll just throw in a W and see what happens, and he didn't even have a first item. Now he's looking at almost 2. Chovy's looking at his second item as well.
That's the second coming in.
Gen.G are right back in this game with just 1 fight. It's kind of insane how they did it. But HLE, you know, they're still a little bit ahead. They got that Mountain Drake as well, so that's going to be some extra resistances. The Mountain Soul going to be huge in this game.
I think the big thing with that last fight was it wasn't as controlled. They didn't have the Poppy ultimate up. I think the ideal fight for HLE isn't a fight. You set up the objective, they come in, you ult someone away, they go, oh, well, I guess we can't fight, and you just take the objective. So I think HLE, if the game slows down and they can set up for that, that's the ideal. And you can tell they were a little bit rushed in how that fight ended up panning out. So
defensive turns, but Peanut is going to look for a gank here. Chovy way up in the lane.
Yeah, Chovy thought he was safe. Let's see if he can wall away on time. Looks like the answer's no, as Peanut's on top of him, but Zeus is very far away. Chovy just going to flash out of this one, as now he goes for the wall, but that's a Poppy! You can't get away from the Poppy by using your wall! And Peanut sits him down. Meanwhile, though, Gen.G are going to go for this Otacon. They say, well, you committed heavily to the top side of the map. So who wins this fight?
Look at Viper, look at Viper. They're getting shredded. If he lands a piercing arrow, it would do so much damage.
Well, let's see what happens on this fight. A lot of damage already coming out here from Zeka, as the smite will be 100% to the side of Gen.G. And now the TP just dies immediately. And they turn on a Delight as well. A big sweep here from Viper. It's alone. The damage doesn't go through. And it's only Viper that can get this one done. And it looks like Duro will have to be sacrificed once again. But already the Otacon was picked up by Gen.G. And they got a couple of kills on the backside of that one, so not half bad.
I think Gen.G are happy with that one. It's a 3 for 2 in favor of HLE, but you get the Otacon. I think you take that in the end. Chovy, you know, I think we praised him a little bit too much. This play, a little bit messy.
He had a ward in the river, but, you know, the pathing of Peanut's just outside of it. We saw that the pet could have been seen, right? The observer client that shows up, but that's not going to show up on your mini-map. You're not going to see that. He doesn't know. Ends up getting caught. False at security. This fight's a little bit wild, right? Like, Viper looks for the snipe here instead of actually trying to look for big damage, but he kind of gets both, right? Zeus doesn't have ult. Instead of TPing to a safer ward, just instantly dies, and without Zeka's play here, you know, it ends up being a wash, but Viper is so fed, and then Peanut here over the wall, pulling Duro back in to give him a second kill, ends up kind of saving it, but like you said, small lead for Gen.G. Now, advantage Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, let's see what happens on this one. We got the Rumble Ultimate this time, but it's just going to go the way of Gen.G. HLE not in position to fight on that one. They were not set up, as you were saying they had to be off.
I think on that Otacon fight, I think if HLE had played it more about the fight, I think they definitely could have taken a lot more members of Gen.G down, but Gen.G get the Otacon, they get the Dragon, goal lead 1,000 in favor of HLE. I think Gen.G feeling pretty positive with how things have panned out, but the game's still very close.
Viper 4-0 right now, you know, looking for 2 objective steals, but definitely going to turn on the heat in these next few team fights because of the range advantage. But it's now been several major moments where Hanwha Life were looking for control on the opposite side of the map to where the objective was. Gen.G get the setup, and Hanwha Life's comp isn't working as well without the setup, as you said, Ox. So let's see what happens when we move into this next Dragon fight. I don't think we're going to be seeing a 25-minute Baron startup unless something crazy happens beforehand. But I think Hanwha Life really need to focus up in terms of getting those setups ready because their comp is so incredibly powerful there. They can play around side lanes, they can look for picks, but when that Dragon is spawning, when Otacon's up on the other side of the map, you really have to think about the push and pull of the Rift here. And Gen.G are just getting the better of them in these last few exchanges.
I'm a little bit worried for Hanwha Life. just for the fact that it seems to be only their bottom lane that's really on the ball today. I think that Zeka's been a bit rough so far in this series. The game. There's only been one game. Zeus as well. The TP a little bit iffy. He's 1-3, not really putting up the numbers. And
I think Peanut's been pretty good, to be fair.
Peanut's been pretty good. He did go all the way to the top side to gank while Otacon was up, and Gen.G immediately responded. So I don't know if you would call that a macro mistake. You know, Hanwha Life were at least able to fight afterwards, but
call that a macro decision.
Yeah, it was a decision of sorts. I do think that Hanwha Life need more than just Viper and Delight if they're going to beat Gen.G in this best of 5.
And it's been the leads we saw early, but then overextensions happen. You know, Hanwha criticized all year for taking big leads and kind of playing with their food a little bit. This is Gen.G. You can't do that against this team or you will lose your lead. As Peanut's going aggressive, Rel showing up here too. Keen in some trouble. TP.
Yeah, TP's coming in. I think with the 3 of them, they should be able to get this one down. The Gwen can shred a bit more through the Poppy compared to other champs, but eventually you're not going to win a 1v3, and that will be Keen going down. Doesn't even use his exhaust. He knew he was dead.
It's just crazy how just Peanut can just run at you. Like, as a Gwen, you kind of expect that, like, you know, it's a Poppy. What's a Poppy going to do? That, apparently. Like, slams him in the wall. And, you know, even before the Azir turned up, it was kind of looking pretty bad for Keen. End up picking up the kill. Doesn't get any, you know, resource in terms of summoner spells. But we'll take that extra bit of gold. Nothing really that Gen.G can do in return at that time.
Yeah, and you know, it's a big win. Chovy pushes it into the top inner turret, but it's not able to get anything. Zeus is able to show up there because it's the inner pretty quickly. Doesn't even need a TP for the defense, and now is actually just farming safely. 2 minutes, though, until that dragon. Look at the vision, the bottom side of your mini-map for watching at home, where that control is for Hanwha. They need to maintain it for 2 minutes. Get that set up. Have the Poppy ultimate this time. Zeus has TP and ult as well. He's sitting pretty, picks up another item here, grabs the Oblivion Orb, I believe he just finished there, and is looking for this big team fight. This is where Hanwha Life regain control over the game. They force this fight. Now, there are angles where you could trade objectives here. Gen.G do have this one control here, but there's vision otherwise all around the Baron Pit. Hanwha going to play through that, read it. And unfortunately for Zek, he's on the wrong side of the map to not have a teleport here, is answering the Gwen who does. And I think they need to swap this back before this dragon or look for a pick.
Wall's going to come down, and that's, I mean, there's no wave here, guys, so... again, another decision.
Yeah.
This time from Gen.G. And, you know, I like how they're playing a lot around getting position in mid and around the dragon, because that's going to be the next objective that we probably fight over, unless there is a big team fight that leads into Baron. So
I think it's...
I like it, but it was very eager. You know, it was a little bit too early.
I think they saw the timing, and it's just hard to have a wave against Poke Virus, you know, who can just kind of snipe it from a mile away. So
this gave a lot of time, though, for Hanwha Life to reset and go down towards the bottom side, because they put Zeka top to defend against a potential Baron. They expected Gen.G might look to threaten. Then they went for the mid play instead, so now Hanwha Life regained control, and this is the fight we were looking for. They have control. Peanut has full vision set up here as well. And Gen.G going to have to find their way in here somehow, some way.
Yeah, you see Duro wants to get position, but it's so difficult into this Poppy. Peanut's presence in this game has certainly been felt, and it's Hanwha Life setting up on the objective first. This is what we want to see for their sake.
It's so difficult because no one wants to walk around and be in front of a wall and get slammed into it by Poppy, and also no one really wants to be face-checking and get knocked away by the ult, so it's very difficult to step forwards against HLE. There's also the Chains of Corruption.
10 seconds on Chovy's ult, 5 now. I mean, he may be able to warp this fight to his favor.
Oh, they're going for Baron.
This is a really greedy call. Peanut on the bottom side there, they're going to rush over. I just don't think they can actually really commit. They clear the vision quickly, though. Now Hanwha Life don't have that setup we were heralding them for on the Dragon.
Well, they're going to force Peanut to come over.
Chovy on the flank.
Gen.G will be the ones that are in position on an objective.
Wait, they have
Actually,
the wall.
Like this, the wall does come down, and the damage... It's not quite there at the same time, and now Duro's going to get caught in the front. Gen.G kind of scrambling here, taking a bunch of damage. Now Delight going in, looking for the engagement. He gets blown up. But meanwhile, Canyon now, Zeus flashes over the wall. He's going to trade 1-for-1, but Duro is down as he does get taken out here. The chase here onto Keen. Looks like he is just going to TP away, though. So Hanwha Life Esports, they do win the fight. It's a 2-for-2, but you can see the health bar is a bit healthier here for Hanwha. And they also get that TP out of Keen.
I mean, it's a Jin comp. You know, you just don't really have great damage. As Chovy may be caught.
He does have his flash, and he's actually just able to walk it off, but bit of damage is done, and maybe HLE can set something up on the Dragon?
Yeah, they still have their jungler, but it's still a little bit scary. Ruler backed, and Keen did as well. They're full HP. Ruler picked up an Infinity Edge, but I think having jungler means you're going to be able to secure that Dragon.
Yeah, and there's a ward on the Baron pit here for Hanwha, and there's just not that much damage, like I said, with his Jin comp. Like, if Ruler is playing another 80 carry in this position, maybe you could actually try to burn with this wall, but instead they only get it to half health, and then the re-engage, or the setup here for Hanwha Life with the equalizer here first into Delight's engage. Ree gets engaged on first, but still gets some Magnet Storm in, buys some space. Zeus goes in. Zeus goes a bit too deep on this one, but secures the kill. But it's just such a broken up fight for Gen.G because they're coming off of Baron. They're trying to retreat into a choke point. And honestly, we might have even seen a better equalizer there in the choke if he had waited. But it's a big win for Hanwha, right? They end up picking up the gold lead again here, but stopping that Baron, grabbing the Dragon. Soul point here for Mountain Soul now in their hands with this Poppy composition with Aurel. So difficult for Gen.G if that goes over.
Jin as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do have a Gwen and the Talia as well, but in terms of AD, right, it's going to be very difficult to chew through, and if you just build a lot of MR on top of it, it can be very difficult for HLE's comp to take any damage against what Gen.G do have. But we'll have to wait and see where this game does go. It's very close for a game that's 30 minutes in. Yes, Drake lead and a slight gold lead here for Hanwha Life Esports, but we already saw Gen.G come back earlier on in the game. And as long as HLE don't get the actual soul, I think there is still an angle for Gen.G. I think if the soul is taken, maybe they don't quite have the same angle.
I get the sense that there's been a lot more proactive play out of Gen.G, right? And they had to be the ones to do that, right? Because they were behind. We saw the clutch fight on Dragon. We saw how Hanwha Life have struggled to actually take fights defensively and look for turns with objective control because Gen.G are just finding these pockets. They're finding these angles. And that's what gives me the feeling like this game isn't over yet. You know, it's a close game, like you said, the small advantages, but Hanwha have such a great comp that scales so incredible, has great side lane pressure if they can get some vision, get some grouped up, Shadow from Peanut, for example, onto Zeka in the bottom lane. But it's Gen.G is finding these angles and keeping it close. It makes me feel like this is still anyone's game to take.
Absolutely, especially with how different like the win cons are when it comes to the team fights. I feel like
Ruler?
He had cleanse, he's fine.
It's just kind of taking a walk through the mid lane, not sure about that.
He's been playing really aggressively in the mid lane when he's going for prio. Like Viper will just piercing arrow him and be like, I can take it. Does end up getting the cleanse there. I feel like the Chains of Corruption is generally what you're cleansing when it comes to this HLE composition, so it's not that bad, but it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. He almost has it back.
Yeah,
it's like halfway through.
But to be fair, like how often in the middle of a fight are you getting Chains of Corruption by Varus? It's not going to happen that often.
Arguably the other issue you're going to have to deal with maybe a Rel crash down or something like that, but there's a lot of different ways that you should be able to position against that.
If you get Rel ulted, you're probably dead anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
it is what it is.
Ultimately, it's a big win for Hanwha Life, but if anyone else had been there, it could have been worse for Ruler. So that's, I think, the bigger concern rather than what really happened here.
Well, looking for Peanut, I suppose, and they might just be able to get him. He's caught out as the angle from Toby locks him in, and they get another kill here for the Gwen. Gen.G now with the man advantage and no jungler. They should be looking to start this Baron.
Yeah, Roseus does have Equalizer here, and Empress divides up for Zeka. It's a Jin comp, but there's a Gwen on this Baron.
Look at the Varus.
Close.
Oh. The Varus poke is so deadly around this Baron though, but Viper did miss that first Q.
It's 5v4. Duro does get pretty low. The Equalizer only going to hit Chovy, and they're keeping this Baron least. I think Gen.G are in a good spot here. Zeka and Viper trying their best to do the damage, but now even Zeus is taking a ton, as now the engage does come in from Delight, but he goes down immediately, and Canyon's not even looking at the fight. He just wants the objective, as he will get it. And now Ruler alongside of Chovy. So many low health bars, and in goes Canyon. They will look to clean up the fight. Viper is all alone by himself in a 1v3, flashes forward to try to score the win, but he will not be able to, and it's a triple kill to Chovy.
So close to Viper cleaning up on the fight, but Chovy stays strong, Canyon stays strong. Baron goes over to Gen.G. The fight is cleaned up, but it was a precarious one. Chovy finding a beautiful angle, wasn't looking for Viper, but Delight and Peanut caught out here. Peanut unfortunately not able to get away on this one, and then the call to go for Baron you see they start to get really patient. You know, the Baron gets low, but they clearly want more than just the Baron out of this, looking for the fight. Ruler starts setting up with the ultimate over here, and they start to look to see if they can find some picks in the back end. You can even see Keen moves off the Baron pretty early. They could have just secured it, but they're looking for this angle towards Zeus, and they end up finding a route here onto Zeka. Keen tries to take him out. Chovy moves over with Ruler, and they manage to finish up with the flash from Canyon.
Viper playing this so well at the final moments, though. Does, of course, have his Edge of Night here, so can buy a little bit of space. Looks for the play onto Chovy at the last possible second. Nearly hits him with that, which would have just left one Baron on Canyon at the end of it. But I think Gen.G played that beautifully because I know there's no jungler. It's the onus is on HLE to try to force the fight, and they just played super defensively while also managing to hold that Baron aggro to take it down.
Did you see Chovy's items? He's got a Magize in this game and a death cap. Now Keen, what's going on here? He goes in by himself, and Gen.G are like, wait, what was that? And now, this is potentially Mountain Soul for Esports.
And a lot of this Baron is being wasted by the fact that they're fighting over this Dragon right now, not getting any pressure with it. This is a rough time here for Gen.G.
Gen.G want to go for the fight, actually. They're going to open up as that ult is not going to hit here from Peanut. He's taking a ton of damage. In goes Canyon. Peanut's dead! And that means the smite is easy for Canyon. They get the jungler, and HLE do not commit to the fight, and they get punished for it.
Just a crazy turnaround from Gen.G to lose your top laner outright at the start of the fight. And we see Ruler just stands on an equalizer ulting. He's like, I'm committing to the bit. Kills Peanut, and the team are able to clean it up and deny the assault. This was just, I mean, Keen.
This is the kind of play that, you know, obviously he's trying to coordinate a collapse here with the Weaver's Wall, and the Weaver's Wall just ends up kind of slowing down Hanwha's advance. But the play here from Gen.G just exudes ultimate confidence, right? The fact that they're like, yeah, we're down a member, but we can actually still win this with our superior setup with the Jhin we have. Hanwha Life struggles so much when they don't actually have the defensive turn, right? The Poppy ultimate misses, and that's all it takes. They focus down Peanut as he looks for that play. That's a secure on Dragon. So 3 Dragons apiece now here, 14 kills apiece. But Gen.G, the scoreboard looks similar, but when you look at the gold, when we look at the map control, it's definitely Gen.G's game to lose.
Oh boy, Delight just gonna get caught out here, and this has been happening all game. Not to Delight specifically, but to many different players just getting picked off, essentially, for no reason.
I mean, he's trying to get some sort of vision, but why in this specific place right now with no objectives up is the question.
You know, considering how rough the game started for Ruler and Duro, they really bounced back. That previous play, they were the ones who set up the kill onto Peanut. They set up that play there onto Delight, really bouncing back from a very rough early laning phase.
Chovy looking for a cutoff here. No vision on him right now. As the wave comes in, they will see him.
Trying to go for something, but look at the damage that they do to Peanut, and he snipes him from miles away. And Peanut can't even get out of there with his life intact. We talked about the Poppy and the Mountain Soul and everything, but he just looks like a, I don't know, just a wet piece of paper at this moment in time. He's getting shredded so easily.
That's not what you want to see, and they didn't even have to use Chovy's Weaver's Wall. They didn't even have to look for a really aggressive setup here. It's just kind of a freebie. Baron's gone now, though. See if there's an angle here Delight could find. I don't know, there's just no follow-up. As you can see, Gen.G can kind of see everything except Delight, but they know where he is.
Wall's going to come down. They just want to secure this inhibitor. They're going to get the turret. Yep, Siege Wall. Do they commit to the inhibitor? Looks like no. But they're just chopping away chunks of Hanwha Esports' base. And Hanwha was in such a commanding lead. They had so much control of this game, but this is why we had so many one-sided predictions for Gen.G. They are just that team right now in the LCK. Even when you've got a lead, they will come back.
Get to see Keen's point of view. And it was the last needle that was able to catch him at the end. But yeah, I mean, so much of this game was either a lead for HLE or just super close between the two teams. And now we have a 6,000 gold lead
and a
in favor of Gen.G.
stacked Magize for Chovy.
Yeah, I mean, he's full build. He can only just get more stacks than the Magize at this point. He is so strong right now. And the thing is, especially because, you know, Peanut, like, Delight's on a support economy. Peanut is on a jungler's economy. And, like, you look at his items in comparison. Like, Ruler's nearly full build with an LDR. Chovy's got a Void Staff, and there's an Abyssal Mask on Duro.
Keen, he just wants blood. He almost got a little bit of help from his friend there, Ruler, with a little Deadly Flourish. But yeah, you don't get the kill, but you get Zeus out of the fight. And that's going to mean more pressure here from Gen.G right before this Baron spawns.
Baron,
the inner turret.
Baron is spawning, but so is the Dragon here. And Hanwha Life have more vision around the Dragon, but I think Gen.G have an opportunity to rush over and set up before it and end up contesting for this. It looks like, though, you know, we might see Hanwha Life try to collapse here and look for the Baron first. There's a really tiny window between these two objective spawns here. If you get a pick, you could potentially get both or just, frankly, end the game. No open inhibitors just yet, or rather, no destroyed inhibitors for Hanwha Life. This is their last stand. This is their last opportunity. They're fighting desperately for Prio to take that fight, get a big keeper's verdict. The fights, the comp, we've talked about it all game long. They haven't really been able to find their win cons. Gen.G have stopped them at every turn. This is their final moment, and Gen.G looking to now channel towards Baron. Once again, I mean, this composition with the Jhin has so much space
They have so much damage. It's incredible the amount of damage they have on this Baron. It's going to force them over. Duro trying to hook his way away from this one. The wall comes down. The Poppy ult not going to hit. It's now Delight trying to force the fight here. Duro is pretty low. And actually a decent angle here. Canyon getting pretty low himself. Keen is by himself as well. HLE might have found the one angle to win the fight, but Toby's still alive. Ruler sniping from very far away. Looks pretty good still for HLE, even though Chovy is chomping them down with huge amounts of damage with this gigantic build. But HLE, they stop the Baron, and maybe now they get the Dragon.
Yeah, moving over towards the Soul. Peanut's still alive, able to edge out that fight despite the deficit TP coming in. And I feel like this fight, the front line just got shredded for Gen.G. Weren't able to really get access. You can see Jiro focused down here. The ult doesn't connect, but Ruler has to back away so far. Ruler and Chovy get zoned so heavily by Delight and Zeus here. And Ruler does ult here, but he's not really able to do too much to Viper, who's full HP.
I mean, Zeus played that so well. His equalizer was massive. One more tick and Ruler dies and doesn't even get to have the opportunity for that ultimate. Heroic Rumble play after they get that first initial setup onto Duro. Baron is denied. Soul is secured here for Hanwha Life. 5,000 gold down, but at 40 minutes, that really doesn't mean as much as it would have, 10 minutes ago.
I mean,
everyone's starting to get closer to full build.
Chovy and Ruler are full build.
Yeah.
Any gold they're getting on top of this is irrelevant. So, that Mountain Soul coming in, that permanent boost, is a massive boon for HLE.
And I mean, we're looking at all these ultimates back online here. Peanut, Zeus, they're ready for a potential Baron fight and contest.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think, HLE, they benefit hugely from this Mountain Soul, but we've seen that both of these teams have won big team fights from behind. And I think it's just going to come down to team fight execution, which both of these teams are just so fantastic at. HLE getting the better of the last one.
Let's see that Chovy wall. The angle is really important. How many people get cut off?
Hide on bush. Duro going to be spotted, though, in the play.
Zeka with this Sun Disc is actually pretty massive. They have a ton of prio right now. Canyon alone.
I think the big concern for me is HLE have so many more flashes available on their side. 4 up compared to Gen.G, who only have Chovy and Duro. Ruler's flash being down, Canyon's being down, I think is a big hit.
Yeah, I think they could actually just start the Baron.
I mean, they're playing around vision because Gen.G, of course, don't have that full information here. That control ward in that brush is so valuable. Once they clear that, Hanwha Life can just do anything, and Gen.G will have to really sweat it out. Like, are they doing Baron? Can we go over and contest? Or are they going to engage on us? Keen on a flank angle here. The shields really coming into play as they clash in neutral. The range advantage as well makes it so difficult to dent Hanwha Life.
You have a ridiculous amount of Baron damage here for HLE with almost full build Azir and Rumble. And even the Varus, even though he is lethality, can do a decent amount. Now Keen just gonna start attacking Delight, who's taken so much, and he's gone! He's just out of the fight, just like that is Chovy. Getting pretty low, Zeus gonna flash on in, but Chovy's got his Zhonya's, and he will be able to survive there. Takes a bit of damage. But right now we've got Delight, who is down. Chovy gets the pick again! You will not stop this man! And that is going to be 25 stacks for the Taliyah.
But Viper's still full health, and all these low health bars for Gen.G means I don't think they could try to push for anything further here. It's a huge win for Chovy. They end up taking him out of the fight. Zeus, that is, out of the fight. That means Hanwha Life shouldn't be able to take this Baron either. TP comes in for Keen just to be sure. The game state's still so incredibly close, and Gen.G now have their eyes on looking for the Baron turn once again.
Yeah, with a long death time, we should be able to move on this. Zeus does have TP, but not up for 30 seconds. The thing is, Peanut has flash, and they still have a lot of power. The poke from the Varus over the wall is significant. They can threaten with a poke, And Peanut can look for the steal.
Peanut has flash.
This could be big.
It's 5v3, and it's really just going to come down to Peanut and see if he can get in there. The damage is being done by Keen, though. He's running Viper down, and that's going to zone Peanut away as well, who is being shredded and has to flash the wall. That's going to be Baron over to Gen.G. Very nicely handled.
So well played there by Keen. I was a little concerned him going over the wall with Viper there, but he forces Summoner spells from Viper and gets Peanut away from the situation so they can secure the Baron. And I was talking before about the lack of summoners for Gen.G. Canyon's flash is coming up, Rulers is coming up. They've navigated that situation so well, and they secured the Baron to boot.
Yeah, this fight is very broken up, of course, but initial pick here onto Delight means that even though the knockaway on the Nautilus is there, it's a trade. And then watch Chovy here on this moment, here on this angle. Zeus used his equalizer to try to zone Chovy, but Zonias was available. Chovy getting this flick here is massive. They can't do more because Viper is level 18. He is so huge in this game. But moments like that are how you get to start these Barons, how you get to have that control, look for these angles. Keen with the outplay there, denying any entry, denying the Varus for the arrow plus smite combo that Peanut and Viper were wishing that you could have a chance for. Just not giving them any angles, any windows back in. And now Gen.G looking to finally put the death knells on this inhibitor in the bottom lane.
Yeah, inhibitor would be nice. It is just the bottom inhibitor with Elder coming up, so it's not like the end of the world if Hanwha Life do lose it, but it does mean that Gen.G are going to have a kind of an insane amount of map control, especially with them sieging a little bit in mid at the same time. You see that cannon getting to work on the turret. And now we got a bit of damage into Duro. He is going to hook away. And at least on the life, they're keeping them out of this one for now, but the wall is going to come down, and the Poppy ult knocks away the Xin Zhao. But Peanut, he puts himself in such a bad spot, and Keen will live for now, but he gets poked down by the Rumble and the Azir, so he's out of the fight himself. Duro pretty low at the same time.
Clearing this wave here as Gen.G did not get that inhibitor.
All right, Chovy, he is just, look at the damage on this Talia, it's insanity. And now Canyon is frontlining for the team. You got a zoning Jin ult at the same time. Nobody's able to follow up on this one. Zeus getting incredibly low, and he will be taken out. Nothing that Viper can do. And that will be this mid inhibitor going down at least.
The big thing is, though, look at the death timer on Zeus. Elder spawning in 30. I'm not sure they can end right now. Canyon?
He just walks in.
This could change things.
Up dies, and now they got to go for the fight here. Duro, look at a sacrifice for the team, but Canyon goes down, and that might just be a bit too much. But Chovy and Ruler, they are incredibly fed in this game.
I mean, Viper has a huge role to play here in this one now. He has one death. He's only died one time in this game, and that's going to reset everything here. Peanut respawns first, but they don't have any map control. They are down that mid inhibitor. The bottom inhibitor, surprisingly, was, again, saved by HLE, and they can play through the bottom.
They're trying to keep them trapped in the base so they can't just run into Elder. They're trying to buy as much time as possible.
It's going to be tricky. Remember, Zeka has TP as well here.
Oh, TP in a mid.
They're going to actually look to try to collapse on this.
Oh, that's crazy.
They say, okay, you want to take the Elder? Take the Elder.
And
I don't care about the Elder.
Hanwha may have to just back here. They have enough wave because there's no big wave in the main base.
Well, they only got 2 inhibitors. I don't know.
Wait, I think this is fine. So they back away. The Elder's gone. But with 2 super minions, mid and top, they're not really going to be able to...
Nobody's coming in here.
I don't know about this.
So you have to back away.
Yeah, he's just going to get ulted away. Peanut's going to throw him
But essentially, the Elder's secured. But what is HLE going to be able to do with Elder when you have super minions pushing mid-top?
You have no pressure.
Yeah, we're just going to kind of reset here. This is going to be a very, very long game. We might set some records here if the pace of this continues. But, I mean, when you look at the game state here as well with the wards in the base here for Gen.G, no TP for Chovy, no TP for Keen. So even though there are setups here for potential TP into the base, you're probably not going to be able to, without teleport, not going to be able to do that, but I don't think you're going to be able to threaten a backdoor here either, but you do completely neutralize the impact of the Elder, as you mentioned, Ox, so unless somebody gets caught here, it's going to take a while before HLE can really threaten to end off of this Elder, because Elder is usually and was designed to be the, I got this objective, the game is over now, no one can stop me, but the Super Minions will slow this. And I think there's still an angle here where Hanwha Life could look for a siege, and they're absolutely going to try here with Viper poking his way in. But I mean, look at this. There's no wave. There's just no way for them to end right now unless Gen.G make a mistake.
This is the problem, is that, you know, Elder makes you so good in the fights, but it doesn't help with the sieging, and there's a ton of wave clear. They might get this mid-tier too. That's definitely plausible with the Elder. Breaking the inhibitor tower is much more difficult, though.
Chovy doesn't have ult. I thought he was going to look for a wall there.
Yeah,
Trying to buy
mid hit
time.
2, that'll go pretty quickly.
Zeka's going in there. He's going to do a ton to Toby, who has to flash. They got the equalizer. Toby, they got in. Toby is down. And they've got a cannon minion here too, HLE. How far do you want to push it? They're looking for the inhibitor.
Well, I guess they can't neutralize that.
No, I don't think so. Bit of a greedy play from Toby. He is punished.
All right, Chain's going to go down. Look at the damage from the Azir and the Varus.
Now there's no wave here just
With
yet,
the
but another
Elder.
one's coming. And I don't know, with 45 seconds until Toby respawns, I think Hanwha should be able to end here.
They don't have the same wave clear. They gotta stack up.
They're gonna block it.
They gotta stack up and keep the minions alive, and HLE are gonna do exactly that. We got the peanut ult, not gonna hit anything. Keen, desperate to try to stop the minions from hitting the face. He will go down, but HLE, they wanna end the game right here. And right now, they get a kill out to Cannon. They get a kill out to the turrets, and HLE are gonna make it happen in game 1.
They have such a track record of winning those game 1s and game 5s in best of 5s. They have not lost to Gen.G.